freedom of information.
Friday. FOIA.
This is FOIA Friday. It's that time. Dr. Crystal Heath and Jack Morgan. Nice.
Friday.
Well, welcome back to FOIA Friday at 4. That's Dr. Crystal Heath. I'm Jack Morgan. We are uncovering corruption in the food system and other
I realized
places.
I don't have my background on. Oh, well, it's fine.
You look like you're cozy. I got your background. I stole your background. I like it. I realized that this says Cargill in the eye, but I've been seeing lots of Palantir, which most people say Palantir erroneously, but it's actually Palantir. If you're,
huh?
well, he named it after a thing in Tolkien, which just has the established pronunciation as Palantir, but ain't no thing.
That was Palantir as well. So
you can say it any way you want. Who cares?
Palantir stock, and it's doing great. So
good for you. You can profit off the spying on all the Americans. I love it.
Here's my theory on my investing from here on out. If as activists we win, we won't need retirement funds. But if we lose, we will. So this is how I'm hedging my bets. I'm investing in JBS. I'm investing in Cal-Maine. I'm investing in Palantir, as well as some smart, regular investments like QQQ, VUG, VOG, your growth stock ETFs, which are important if you want to get rich. Invest in growth stock ETFs, very low risk, high yield investments. But if you want to play the stock,
this is not of financial advice, everybody, by the way.
Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I have done very well for myself. I invested in NVIDIA back in the day, and that has been very good for me. But I will, if you do play the stocks just for fun, invest in the doom stocks, which are the Palantir, the JBS, the Cal-Maine foods, and
But what if it all goes? What if we win and they lose? You'll lose all that money.
Then it'll be worth it, though.
It will be worth it. I guess you're right. It's worth it.
I'll be okay because we're all going to take care of each other. Because that's the goal when activists win, is we all take care of each other.
That's true. I like what you're thinking. But if we don't, you're still going to be okay, even if we lose. Yeah. I like it. What if there's a violent revolution that overthrows the world order? Will we still even? Well, never mind. Hey, I heard you had a new
Palantir will be fine.
Palantir will probably, or Palantir, as the case may be. Palantir. Hey, where's the if you're a Tolkien fan, he named all of his stuff after Tolkien stuff, and all the Tolkien fans are really upset about it. So I've been hearing a lot about this pronunciation thing, which is why I think it's funny, because a lot of Tolkien people online, which I've only read the 4, right? The Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's all I've ever. Some of the Silmarillion. Have you read any of this stuff?
Like just your classic, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah, like Lord of the Rings stuff. So the guy writes books about trees tearing down the military-industrial complex, and Palantir is now, they are the military-industrial complex, and they are naming their little subsidiaries after items and things in Tolkien, which has incurred a lot of the wrath of the Tolkienites. So I think it's kind of fun. So you had a new paper published. What was the what was that all about?
So this paper we published in the Journal of Veterinary Medical Education this month. This is a public records review of cadavers and terminal animal use in U.S. and Canadian veterinary schools. And this entire paper is based on documents obtained via public records requests of veterinary schools. And we found out that the vast majority of veterinary schools are still killing animals in veterinary education, which is kind of ridiculous because human medical schools do not kill animals in their education. They got rid of that altogether.
They don't do that anymore, right?
Veterinary schools still do. And here's what we found. I won't leave that paper up there because it's kind of boring. But we found that basically, so schools requested overall every year, all of these veterinary schools, which there are 38 veterinary schools in the US and Canada accredited by the American Veterinary Medical Association Council on Education. 30 are public. And of the requests that we sent, 29 of the 30 veterinary schools in the US and Canada. So there are 8 private veterinary schools in the US and Canada. So they're not subject to public records laws. And we ended up getting basically 26 protocols.
But wait a second, Crystal, aren't even private vet organizations, and because they're, maybe I'm stupid about this, because I know that private universities have to maintain records that are publicly accessible about
Nope.
what kind of animals they move around because of the Animal Welfare Act and stuff.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Then how do we know so much about Harvard and all of the experiments happening there?
I think through public records requests of the NIH, maybe. But if you can't just do a public records request of Harvard and get that information. And all of these animals that the schools are having students experiment on for their education, those are not NIH granted things. So you can't get that information that way. So basically, okay, here's back to this thing. Yeah. Louisiana State University just stated that they did not have a legal obligation to provide any of the requested records. Huh, nice for them.
Louisiana.
The University of Guelph provided animal purchase and donation records, but stated it did not have to provide IACUC protocols under Ontario's public records law.
That's what I was thinking. IACUC, that was what I was looking for in my brain. IACUC, aren't there IACUC protocol things for all organizations that aren't just even the private ones?
Yes, but they're not publicly available information because it's not a government thing. It's just the institution has an IACUC committee.
Oh,
big whoop.
Okay. Like, I just thought that was a.
Nope.
I was misinformed.
Okay, so we got 26 schools, their IACUC protocols of the 38 veterinary schools across the US and Canada. And we found that every year, these 26 schools kill 8,558 poultry birds, 1,441 rodents, 906 horses, 865 dogs, 679 small ruminants, 521 fish, 386 pigs, 347 cows, 324 birds, 287 exotics, which maybe I don't know what like bunnies, ferrets, yeah, those sorts of guinea pigs.
I was thinking bright, colorful birds, parrots, but yeah, I guess any.
Well, are there other birds?
Exotics? They must be thinking like monkeys must be exotic, right?
No, because monkeys were non-human primates were a different one. So there's 205 cats, and actually I don't think most of those cats were actually killed. I think they were part of like a TNR program, and maybe. Well, no, actually, that's not true. No, they might have been killed. And 131 camelids, which are your alpacas and your llamas.
Yeah.
And 25 other ungulate species and 25 non-human primates. So that's a lot of animals that we're killing. But I will say the effective altruists probably think, no, we're not going to fund a program to end that because the numbers aren't there, right? But how do we make the argument to the effective altruists that getting veterinary students to not be forced into killing animals in their education ultimately could save billions of chickens and fishes because they're not normalized to violence against animals and might be more willing to advocate against it because they're not now implicated in the idea that it is necessary to kill animals in order to learn.
Why are we trying to make the effective altruist argument for these
To get
things?
money
Oh, the
funding.
money, right? Because
Yeah.
the effective altruists have all the money.
Yeah.
Did any of those numbers kind of jump out at you? Because you went through a lot of them. I just wrote down one that kind of surprised me. Did any of them surprise you?
I just thought it was surprising that most schools still do this. I thought,
Kill animals
that
for
was
cadet.
what surprised you?
They're William Burke. William Burke, the famous Scottish. It's a famous story about this guy who would suffocate people, and he would just go up to people he found drunk or whatever, because the cadavers had to be fresh, and he was killing
Yeah.
people to sell them as cadavers to the local medical school. I thought the number was 960 horses seemed
Yeah.
bonkers to me,
Horses,
because
there's just a lot of unwanted horses that are
more
easy
than
to.
pigs, more than cows, more than cats, more than dogs. I think the only one that beat out the horses were the rodents
Well, and poultry birds.
and poultry
And
birds.
mainly that the poultry thing is North Carolina State University has a big poultry program. The like thousands of birds that they killed for their program, basically. And the students would, basically like take part in this lab where they like oversaw this flock, and then the flock would be killed. So
And then they kill the flock at the end of the semester or whatever, or after
or
the end of the
I don't
project,
know
the end of the
exactly what
lab.
or I could look back and look at exactly what that was. It was a long
But
time ago that I went through all
but
of these. And
960 horses. People claim to care about horses. I mean, I think most people would be surprised about the dogs and cats, but I mean, you and I both know that lots of dogs and cats end up this way.
yeah, I think you can look at the data. Not all of these animals are like healthy animals that they're animals that are purposely being bred in biomedical supply companies and killed. A lot of these would be considered ethical animal use, where you have an owner deciding that the quality of life of this animal isn't good, and we are donating their body to the students to learn on.
Mm.
That would be ethical. Not ethical is purposefully breeding the animal in order to be killed by veterinary students. The animal could go on, if the animal could go on and live a healthy life in a sanctuary, and instead we're killing them for student training, to me, that's unethical. Even if a lot of people
Beagles.
say that, what if this animal was going to be sent to slaughter anyway, but the vet school bought it and then killed it for the students. The students did a surgery on them, and then they killed the animal. Well, that's unethical, because the students could have saved that animal and let them live out their life in a sanctuary, and the students are choosing not to. That causes a concerning ethical dilemma for the students. Either like go along with it, get this grade, or potentially like out yourself as an animal rights activist and face retaliation for being somebody who doesn't just want to go along with the program.
Someone who
So
doesn't want to embrace the callousness of the system. I mean,
yeah,
it truly is a callous. It is poking a fresh wound every time, I'm sure, for these vets who every veterinarian that we talk to wants to get into this industry, this service, whatever, this field, because they want to help animals, and then they have to do this over and over and over again. By the time they're out of vet school, however many years later, they don't walk out the same person they walked in. That's for sure.
yeah, and that's the science has shown that they suffer morally. They are not as morally developed as graduates of other professions. They're stunted, morally stunted, because they're put in these ethically challenging, compromising situations where all of their peers, like, your ethics are created by the people around you. And if the people around you are just going along with killing animals in order to learn, that compromises your ethical development. If you're not seeing people stand up and take a stand and say, like, no, this is wrong, we want ethical and teaching methods that don't require animal harm. And if the people who do that are then punished for that, or socially ostracized, or that's viewed as something that's like they're being unethical if they're the ones saying we don't want to harm animals. That environment creates this sort of psychopathy in the
Sure.
profession. Like, it is, you're incentivizing sociopathy if you're rewarding people who behave badly in
Mhm.
order to get the good grade, and then you're punishing people who take an ethical stand and say, no, I don't want to kill animals. You are
Yeah.
literally incentivizing sociopathy, and
I
that's
mean,
what that veterinary education is doing.
and the way you describe it, it brings to mind all sorts of other organizations and institutions that suffer the same
Corporations,
fate.
capitalism
Corporations.
in general.
Well, I'm thinking,
Capitalism
I
incentivizes
immediately think about
sociopathy.
the Irish clubhouse over at the police station, and how when you get a bad unit, it just ends up infecting the others, and they end up all doing bad things and turning the other way, turning a blind eye to atrocities. I think of fraternities and what
Yeah.
has happened over the years in fraternities where they're doing they come into it for all these
Mhm.
good reasons. They're gonna do. A lot of them are based on some kind of social work, not social work, but on uh, philanthropy. And at the end of the day, they turned into these party houses where the dudes are doing horrible
Yeah.
things. Some of them, not all of them, but the ones that are bad are really, really bad because of exactly the phenomenon you're describing, I think.
And we can even look at the animal rights movement, how it incentivizes
Mhm.
sociopathy. It incentivizes just, we need to protect the heroes. You're punished if you speak out against harmful practices. It's like Scientology too, the same thing that
Yeah,
we've seen with
it just made me
Scientology.
think, like, is it possible to have a good cult? Like, at the end of the day,
No.
you're talking about all these different cults. Is it possible to
Mhm.
have a cult that does the good stuff without all the bad stuff? I've been reading this week a lot about about the Catholic Church around the turn of last century and all of the atrocious things in the early
Yeah.
20th century that the Catholic Church was up to. And then I lived through the last quarter of the last century, and man, they haven't just cleaned up their act at all. Like,
No.
they're still up to the same tomfoolery.
The Mormon church, the
Yeah.
same thing. It is inherently impossible to have a good cult.
Mm.
And everybody should know what the signs of a cult are. It's not just a charismatic leader. It can just be based on an ideology, which is
Or a
what
hierarchy. It doesn't
Scientology
have to
is
have
now, in a
a right.
hierarchy. And be careful, because they'll manipulate you and say, like, no, we're not a hierarchical structure, but it is.
It is,
And
of
you
course, it
have
is.
to. I was talking to a coworker today about who's going through the RBT program,
Let's
and
ask in the chat while you're telling this story. In the chat,
yeah,
can you think of I want to see people on X. We've got a lot of viewers on X, and they just introduced a new protocol, a new feature where if you put a comment on X, we can see it here. So please do, and please do me a
okay.
favor. Let me know if you're watching on X or on any of the platforms. We mostly are got people on YouTube and X right now. What do you think is the best? Is it possible to have a good cult? Yes or no? And
What's the best
if you
cult?
what I was going to say is, if you think that there can be a good cult, if it's
Yeah, what is
yes, what is it? Yeah. Sorry. What tell me
But
your
yeah,
story,
no,
please.
just basically the student going through an RVT program, talking about their ethics class and talking about how they talked about animal welfare versus animal rights, and how it's presented in a very non-biased way. He's not about judging people or groups or anything. And I'm like, oh, that's what they say. Let
Mm,
me see the curriculum, and I will tell you, do not believe what they say. Like, evaluate each thing, and you will see how they're saying it does not
mhm.
actually line up with how it actually is. And once you start asking questions about it, you will come to see this. And this is true of all harmful, toxic
Well, it
organizations.
sounds
It's
like to
just
me that you're advocating for critical thinking. That if you find yourself in a situation that might be a cult,
question
you question
what you're
authority.
being told.
First step.
Don't just repeat the mantras that they're saying about, oh, this is necessary. And it's hard. It's really hard, because we have to get through life, and we can't research everything and we rely on trusted sources. And we think of
Mhm.
all people, our professors should be the most trusted source. But
Sure.
let me tell you, they are not. And I just got the salary of what they're offering soft tissue, the instructor at UC Davis to teach soft tissue surgery. And it is not very much money. That doesn't mean like, oh, the people who accept that job are dumb, couldn't get a job making 3 or 4 times that
Mhm.
in general practice. Yes, some people love serving academia and teaching the next generation, which is really important. But right now in veterinary schools, the industry has found that its best people are best served in academic institutions, in universities, rather than in boardrooms. So the
Mm.
industry is putting their people in these university positions in order to advance their agenda. And they're being paid by these corporations on the back end for taking
Sure.
this lower paying role. So be careful about who
Mhm.
the financial interests and the ideology of who is teaching you
Yeah,
the
a lot of
best.
them work as consultants and that type of stuff for
Mhm.
these industry. Yeah, it's kind of funny when you see stuff like that. So you've discovered all of this, and I still am surprised. 360 horses surprises me because I know something like 350 die on tracks every year.
906 horses. Yeah. 906.
906. I transposed the six and
Yeah.
the. It seems like a lot. I mean, 900 is still triple what die on the track, roughly. So this is killing more horses than horse racing.
Yeah.
That was what,
That's a good stat, right? That's
right?
a good way to frame it.
That
Veterinary schools are killing more horses
three
than the
times
horse
as
the
many,
racetrack. Yeah.
three
So if
times
you
as
care
many as the
about
racetrack.
advocating against horse racing, you should really care about this.
But
And
it's funny you say that we should get the EA crowd on here, but
how
I'm thinking,
yeah,
how do we get PETA on board to stop protesting horse races and start protesting this
protesting schools. Yeah.
schools? Yeah, I
That's is what I'm and not pro I think there's an effective way. We need to because if you just go there and protest like unhinged activists do, it just what we're taught in veterinary school, PETA's unhinged, they don't have their facts straight, blah, blah, blah. And this is like the animal activists don't have their talking points down, they don't have their facts straight. We
mm.
need people to go to these schools with their talking points down, with their facts straight, and to be able to make these arguments well. And that's and PETA can go out there and hold signs, great. But
Well, I
maybe
mean,
you
that's a
can
great
hold
sign that vet schools kill 3 times as many
that is
horses
a good
as
sign. And have a sign. But
new
this is
billboard idea.
important work. Racetrack, the vet students might say, racetracks, I'd love to hear what students argue for like supporting the horse racing industry. Of
Or
course,
to support the horse racing. The only argument
well,
is
I'm
the
just like
economy.
the students are going to be like, no big deal. Horses accidentally die on the racetrack. The horses are treated very well. It's a tragic accident that's happened, but only 300 out of how many races? That's pretty
It's
good.
nearly one a day. It's
Yeah.
nearly one a day.
But you also have to tell the story of these are very young horses. This is a very high rate of death. Like it goes
Mhm.
down. You have to understand how the veterinary profession legitimizes it to itself
Yeah.
and debunk the way that it legitimizes it.
I
Because I
love
think
this.
animal activists,
It's
we get stuck in our bubble of like, oh, isn't this horrible, blah, blah, blah. But understand how veterinarians rationalize it to themselves. And then you have to debunk that.
yeah.
So don't just be like, look at Dominion, watch Dominion, it's horrible. You show
I've
a
never been one of those guys.
Dominion and they'd be like, yeah, this is how we produce protein.
You know,
It's
I've gotten in
very
so many
sad, but
arguments over the
whatever.
years, Crystal, about Dominion and like the horror shows and watching the footage and showing people footage because I didn't need the footage to start thinking that animals deserve to be free. I just, have a sense of morality and
I don't want to watch Dominion either.
I
Come on.
watched it later. I only watched it a couple of years ago because, well, it wasn't out when I went vegan. It wasn't out when you went vegan either, but like, or stopped eating animals, whatever. It's
became a conscientious objector to the animal-based protein industry.
yeah, I
That's
like
what
that. I like that line. Yeah. I'm a conscientious objector to the animal-based protein industry, the corporate line. I've been telling people lately that I was just sick of corporations telling me what to do. And but all that aside, all the activists telling people to go watch Dominion has always rang hollow to me because I did not need a video to make me care about animals. I don't think most people need videos to make them care about animals. I think that those things are too easily dismissed as, oh, this doesn't really happen where we live. This doesn't really happen there. You know, it's just because I've done enough.
Farmers do care about animals.
I know I watch a lot of farmer
And
content, and
especially
they say that cows are their favorite
veterinarians who work in labs care about animals deeply.
animal.
So the argument that like these people don't care about animals, it's like the stories that they tell themselves, and that's what we have to debunk. So anyway, back to FOIA Friday.
Yes.
We can talk about
well,
that
so now that this FOIA has just released, has enlightened me, and 906 horses is something that I'm going to have in my little trap of a mind for a while now. And now I want to go look at more fatalities in horses, because I know that horses die on horse tracks. That's that like 300 something number, but many die in the horse racing industry long before they get off on or off of the track, But Crystal, what other FOIA stuff we got?
That isn't the worst part of it. It's just they're kept in box stalls. I think that's the worst part of it. And it's a completely...
They train them.
Yeah, and the gambling part of it is the bad part. And the way that they use drugs on there, they get sure it's all regulated, but they're always looking for ways to go around it. And the profit, the buying and selling of these horses for profit, which leads to all of this harmful behavior towards the horses. It's bad horsemanship. Fundamentally, the racetrack is bad horsemanship because you're keeping horses in box stalls most of the time, racing them too young. They're having high rates of injuries, and you have a lot of unethical behavior, giving these horses lots of various drugs, trying to get around the drug rules, and forcing veterinarians to work in an environment such as that, which is morally challenging and creates compassion fatigue and all of the things. So
yeah. I was reading an essay earlier this week about how institutionalized gambling and institutionalized prostitution, they were using them both concurrently, are symptoms of how capitalism has failed us, and that while you're trying to make money one way, you're forced to make money another way. And that's where gambling comes in and prostitution comes in. And so I get what you mean when you say gambling is bad, but a lot of these arguments become arguments about our system and our way of life more than about just the animals. It's right there. It's just really difficult for me to get people to care about things like gambling being bad when everyone sees it as this, it's always happened. And yeah, sure, it's always happened. Prostitution's always happened. But
yeah, and I'm fine for gambling on human things. But here, when you're gambling on horses, you are incentivizing bad horsemanship, basically, with the way with this legalized gambling, and our taxpayer money goes to support these racetracks, which I think is unethical. If you
That's true too,
are
yeah.
morally opposed to gambling for whatever reason, you should be pissed by that. Like, millions of your tax dollars are going to support this industry. So that's
I like it. Well, Crystal, what else did we get out of FOIA? Because
I just want to go describe how we got these protocols, because if you are a university student, you can get documents about what your university is doing to animals. And I think more people need to do that. We have thousands of universities all across the United States. So please do this. And we requested all active IOCOOK protocols related to training exercises for veterinary students, veterinary interns, and veterinary residents in which animals were euthanized prior to, during, or following the training exercises. Note, we were not seeking protocols in which veterinary students, interns, or residents made in research projects, which, hey, go for it, somebody. Unfortunately, these FOIA requests cost us thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's what I found for doing FOIA requests, public records requests of universities. It often is very expensive.
Oh, really?
All documents submitted to the IACUC related to the protocols covered by item 1, all documents related to the purchase, acquisition, donation, or transfer of animals used in the protocols covered by item 1 above. So that was our FOIA request. It's available in the paper. You can copy and paste it and make it suit your own FOIA requests. And I hope more people do that. So
yeah, if you are interested in getting into FOIA in order to exercise your rights, please email us at info@ourhonor.org, and we'd love to try to get you involved. We have a Signal chat going where we share our FOIA adventures and we bounce ideas off of each other, and we'd like it if you join. It's pretty lively sometimes. We'd like to get it even more livelier.
I'm going to put the paper in the chat here.
Cool.
The link to the paper. And I'm also going to put a link. So Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine was a collaborator on this. My co-authors were Ryan Merkley and Robin Chadwin. And Physicians Committee published all of the protocols on their website. So you can see all the protocols here. Feel free to fill dead air, Sky. I know that's your purpose.
Well, well, I noticed that you did a CPRA and I did a CPRA this week as well. And so a CPRA is a similar process to FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. CPRA is California specific, as California, what's it, records? What's
public
Public Records
California
Act.
Public Records Acquisition or something like that. Yeah.
I think the A is act, just like FOIA, right? It's just a state act. I don't know. But yeah, so I am looking into, because of the Cattle Act, I wanted to look into those big dairies that we have in California, which ones have been caught poisoning our rivers and streams, because water is in the news. Water, I think, is going to be increasingly in the news. When you and I drove through Central California, before, there's people with billboards blaming whomever for taking their water, but it's all these cows that are taking your water. It's something between 50 and 60% of California water goes to animals who are slaughter bound, and it's kind of galling, because my whole life I've been told to turn off the faucet when I brush my teeth, shave fewer times per week because it takes more water, don't water the garden, don't turn off your sprinklers. They used to have cops when I was a kid. They had cops going around and fining people for watering their lawns.
Wow.
And yeah, during the mid 80s, they had people going street by street, seeing if people are watering their lawns.
That
So
was not a rich neighborhood. I'm kidding.
no, I didn't live in a rich neighborhood growing up. I lived in a quite working class area called Canoga Park. And anyway, so what strikes me is that now it's galling to me, because if 60%, that's the high estimate, it's between 50 and 60, is going to slaughter-bound animals, then we just need to get rid of slaughter-bound animals, and there's no drought anymore. I know a drought talks about precipitation, but the feeling of drought, this rationing of water and all of that, could go away like this. And so I was on, I follow a lot of farmers on Instagram, a lot of ranchers, I should say, and they're saying, oh, look how clean we have for all these cows. Our cows, when they go get milked on our big rotary machine, we clean all their stalls so they always have a nice, clean place to go. And they literally showed this just river of effluence going out. We don't know where it's going, but it is a massive amount of water.
Manure digester.
Yeah, that's what I said. Well, I'd love to see this river of effluent where it ends up, because I think a lot of it ends up in our rivers and streams. Thanks. And they responded. They say, oh, we recycle it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. Do you spray it on vegetables? Because I want them to tell us what are they doing, because all of this is like, we're talking thousands of gallons of water. I mean, it's a deluge. So anyway, so I did a CPRA, but you did one too. What was yours about?
Well, so mine was, I recently uncovered that, and we'll be getting some FOIA documents on this, but I was asking about the response, the H5N1 response previously from last week's show about the H5N1 response in Kern County and Tulare County. And then I got back kind of a message saying, like, we don't have much about H5N1, but, Central Valley Eggs did get a permit to use sulfuryl fluoride to kill the rats in their facility, not related to H5N1. And I'm like, sulfuryl fluoride, what's that?
That's a killer.
Looked into it, and it's horrifying. And California's air is being polluted with sulfuryl fluoride. We have like the highest emissions of sulfuryl fluoride. It's a potent greenhouse gas. It is non-species specific in who it kills. It kills insects. It kills wildlife. It kills human beings. It kills dogs, cats, whoever it comes in contact with. And it's this gas that they use, and it can be highly flammable. And Central Valley Eggs did have a fire there back in July, I believe it was. And I found out across the street, Posa Creek Family Dairy, they had a fire a few weeks earlier than that in their big methane digester.
What the heck is going on?
They actually, like, it had to evacuate within 2 square miles because they have this huge digester. So everybody evacuated 2 square miles because they're worried about a massive explosion.
Because the digester is basically a giant balloon filled with methane gas that's supposedly capturing the methane from the decaying poop from the cows and pumping it back into the grid for us to use to burn, I don't know, cook our vegetables or something. I don't know what we're going to use for. But okay.
I'm wondering if, like, when they decided to use sulfuryl fluoride at Central Valley Eggs and how much and all of that. And I'm also kind of interested in what are these other facilities using sulfuryl fluoride? So my public records request was I request statewide records from January 1st, 2023 to present regarding sulfuryl fluoride, pesticide use reporting data extracts in machine readable format, county, date, site, facility, field identifier, site address, coordinates, etc. Applicator company name and license number, operator, permittee, blah, blah.
How do you know but I don't understand for a second. Who's tracking this? How do you know you're trying to find out who is using it?
Yeah, the Department of Pesticide Regulation. You have to get a special permit to use sulfuryl fluoride.
Oh, because it's super poisonous stuff.
Yeah,
it kills everybody.
Greenhouse gas, everything. So I kind of want to see what companies are using this.
But sulfuryl, this stuff is powder, right? Isn't it just you?
I don't. It turns into a gas, and I also, if you look on basically emissions maps, it's like you look at the whole United States and then it's just California blows up with sulfuryl fluoride. Like, we're the only state using such huge quantities of it.
It's because of our dairies and egg hatcheries.
I don't know. We'll find out. I'm not jumping to conclusions yet. I actually don't think it's used commonly in egg facilities, but maybe it is. I could be wrong. I just think Central Valley Eggs depopulated, and everything. And then they're like, well, let's now get rid of all these rats that are here. Now's the time. Let's fumigate this place.
That would be the time to do it, right? That would be exactly the time to do it. When you're closed, you do a big fumigation and everything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I also think it's probably related to a lot of produce as well. I think that's because that's the main thing. That's getting attention is how the rats are devastating the almond orchards. So it might be easier to fumigate a produce facility than it is an animal facility, because at least, the produce isn't going to die from your sulfuryl fluoride. The animals would.
Well, I wonder what the effects on a human being is on the long, if there's some residue on the plants after the gas has been exposed. I mean, I'm sure they'll say no, but they said the same thing about DDT. I mean,
I think these are used in private homes too, and they tend to fumigate it and stuff, but I don't know. I've seen in some of the advertisements, Vicron is one of the brand names of it.
Vicron. Really?
that it's like home fumigation stuff. These companies do it. So yeah, I requested all these records based on that. So we'll see.
Home fumigation seems to be this is, you know what? Yeah, God, you got me, Crystal, because that's exactly how home fumigation. It's like, well, they must, because at first I'm thinking, well, you got to get rid of termites. You got to fumigate your house with something. It better be potent, right? You don't want to do it twice. But that's exactly the same argument as don't water your lawn, don't water your flowers, your tomatoes at home, because we're really using it up the road at the farm. That's where we're really, because we could have it for private use, whatever, private home use, and not allow giant farms that burst into flames that we have to pick up the tab for. Like, it seems kind of ridiculous right now to think that we're all using this poisonous thing, and we're using just these structures with these chickens in them are massive buildings. People think they're like little coops or something, but they're multi-story, vast, capacious buildings. Of course they caught on fire. Of course.
Well, I don't, we have to find out more, or else we're just assuming stuff. So
yeah,
that's why I did this public records request.
I
So
like
what was
it.
your CPRA request that you did?
My CPRA request. Well, before I talk about that, I would say too, I have been in some of these chicken coops, these massive structures, and there's wires hanging. There's usually some rotting old machine in the corner with like doing some kind of fan generation thing. There's just like, it's all, when you're on a farm, something that strikes you is that nothing's state of the art, because a farmer,
Unless it's a brand new facility.
Unless it's brand new, which is rare, and even the brand new ones often buy used equipment, but that's neither here nor there.
Usually, like, the lifespan of these places is like 30 years, and then you have to rebuild, which is why we could potentially achieve a lot of change in 30 years if we stop allowing these places to rebuild.
Yeah,
all that stuff. So
yeah, like any place though, that they say it's like 30 years, but they'll try to make it, this is capitalism, they want to try to make those buildings, those investments last as long as they can. It's why Circus in Las Vegas is still standing. They should have torn that old building down 50 years ago, but there it is. It's still standing. It's been there since 1960. And people still, it's just a cash cow now. They're not paying anything for it. I think that's the same kind of mentality. And so, you're always, whenever you're on a farm, there's always a building that's falling apart, a newer one that's here that'll fall apart eventually. There's a bunch of kind of tied together with twine and soldering iron stuff. So the fact that these things burst into flames when they're using horribly flammable materials to poison their rats, it sounds obvious to me. Like, this is obviously what's going to happen. But okay, my CPRA request, I want to Tulare County Environmental Health. I took the advice that everyone's been giving me in my FOIA chat and the guests that we have on the show, and I put it down to 1 year, just from September 1st to now, September 1st last year to today, so, Labor Day to Labor Day, basically. And the compliance, I focused on compliance and enforcement. I wanted the inspection reports, routine and complaint driven, notices of violation, citations of abatement and cleanup orders, penalties, and related enforcement correspondence, spill and overflow reports, and lagoon breaches, manure wastewater discharge incidents, and related photos, memos, or field notes. So I'm going to actually share my screen, because I'd like to show people how I use AI to do this, right? So I have a long conversation. It goes on. It's like kind of a long conversation about trying to whittle it down, because if you let ChatGPT just write them for you, they'll usually try to catch up everything, go back 20 years, 10 years. You don't want all that. It'll take forever. And so I just went down to compliance and enforcement and complaints and responses. I wanted public complaints filed with Tulare County Environmental Health regarding wastewater, sewage, manure management, and groundwater contamination at the facility, Land O'Lakes, agency, and it's also just to one producer, just Land of Lakes, because they're big. And I figure I'll start with the big guy, and I'll just go down to the. Although do you know about Crystal Dairy?
No, I've heard of it, but yeah, I don't know. Like there's a couple of, and I should know these all by heart, but there's like a couple of big dairy, like conglomerates, like all these little dairies are like, I don't know if they sell their milk to Land O'Lakes, or Land O'Lakes is, what do you call it, like where it's like co-op, like select milk, like, so I don't know if they'll have records on Land O'Lakes if like all of these dairies are Land O'Lakes, because you drive down Tulare and it's like, this is the Borges Dairy, Land O'Lakes Dairy. Like,
well, I'm hoping. Well, I did have. I wanted the
Dairy Farmers of America was another.
I wanted the Land O'Lakes Tulare Dairy Complex. So I wanted just the complex that's there, that's collecting all of them. So I wanted just try to limit it to one farm for now. And it's not really a farm, is it? It's more like
it's
a giant.
Not really one farm. There's like hundreds of Land O'Lakes dairies.
Well, and I figure I'll go deeper and try, but I want to get to Crystal Creamery. It caught my eye because of your name, but Crystal Creamery says it's the largest privately owned dairy in California. That's their claim. And I thought that would be a perfect place to go. How many complaints have they gotten? And so it's kind of, I'm trying to dig out complaints and that type of thing because of the Cattle Act that's on that we've been talking about, and I want you to get to. But I sent out, that wasn't only one, I sent out two. I also sent one out to the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board. It's similarly structured FOIA, asking similar questions, mostly about compliance, just about specifically compliance and enforcement and complaints and responses. And I'm hoping that one of them will come out. So I have two parallel ones that are only for a year. They're both about Land O'Lakes, and I'm hopeful,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. I totally forgot to mention that I did kind of repeat not doctor, he's not a doctor, Andrew DeCoriolate. I don't know how to say
DeCoriolis.
His ELAP FOIA, and I got results back pretty quickly, and I posted them on Twitter. Maybe it would be interesting to, if you don't get much from the Land O'Lakes stuff, to just go down, and I actually got names of the dairies.
Even better.
I can. Let's see here. I'm gonna add this to the stage. So
this is ELAP. This is at the USDA level, though. This is at the federal level.
ELAP, and I got all of the payments this year, basically 2025. So River Valley Dairy in Riverdale, Henry Vanderpool and Sons Dairy in Wasco, Western Sky Dairy in Bakersfield, which I drive by a lot. VP Legacy Farms in Shafter, which I've seen. It's like, I know all of these ones. I've been to all of these guys. So I kind of want to compile like my footage from each of these facilities and be like, they got this much money. This is what it looks like. Double L Cattle Company.
We should start tagging them in our
honestly, I feel weird. Okay, here's the thing.
Not tagging them on social media, tagging them in our Google Photos so that we know which one's associated with which.
And I had a cool conversation with the We Animals people who explained to me how I should be organizing my photos and how I should be doing the metadata stuff using Bridge and
Adobe Bridge.
I'm going to start using Lightroom and stuff, and I'm going to start really adding all my metadata and with the name of the dairies. And
I mean, since I've known you, you have leveled up to professional photographer to the point where it's like you're a pro photographer now. You probably should have Lightroom and all of I have Lightroom, but I don't use it like it's. Man, Lightroom on your phone is absolutely incredible. It's won a bunch of awards because of like the way the AI works on it, the way it's pretty remarkable what you can do with your phone with Lightroom. But anyway,
phone. I was gonna my
Yeah,
MacBook. And
it
I've
does. It's pretty rad.
so I, you know, my old, which it was a new-ish MacBook, crapped out. And
Mhm.
my older Macs are fine, but like that 2021, it was like the COVID era MacBook is not working. So I got a new MacBook, but I just got the base model because I needed it quickly, and
Mhm.
it's not doing it for me. And I'm like, so I think I gotta buy another MacBook that's a little bit more higher powered. So
You're just leaving a trail of MacBooks behind you.
you should see my kitchen table. I have an iPad, a MacBook. I have a MacBook on my kitchen counter. I have this MacBook right in front of me. I am all about the multiple screen experience.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm doing everything, I have multiple things happening at the same time.
I love multiple
So
screens, but I left the Apple walled garden a while ago because I figure this Acer that I have right now, it's still a workhorse. It's working great, even though I've used it so much that the letters on the buttons on the keys are worn away from so much editing because I use so many quick keys. But it's funny because I used to be Apple only, but I think ever since Steve Jobs died, I don't think it happened in 2021 when Apple took a dump. I think it was when Steve Jobs died. I think the whole company has been kind of
that's, I guess, +1 for a cult leader.
well, I think cult leader, you're absolutely right. What do you think about this idea between a hard and a soft cult? There's a
Tell
someone
me,
said
what's an example of a soft one? What's an example of the hard one?
I don't know. Someone put it in the chat a second ago. Great podcast on soft versus hard cults. It'd be interesting to
Okay.
find that out. I need to research that. But
So a lot of people, like I've been involved with like what's it called? Now I'm flanking on the WOD, like what was the big box gym? CrossFit.
yeah, that's
People
kind of
used to say
culty.
CrossFit was a cult. I never got that because I felt like if I left and spoke out against CrossFit, they wouldn't come for me.
Mm.
And I have like I'm like, it fucked up my shoulders, so I'm not. But I'm now Orange Theory and Core Power Yoga, and people say that both of those things are cults. But again, I feel like I could talk shit about them and they wouldn't come for me.
You can
So
leave and they don't like I was with F45
yeah,
for a
I did
while.
F45 too. Yeah.
I liked it, but man, that 5 a.m. class was a little too early at some point. And but they didn't. Now they just email me every once in a while. We're glad to have you back. We sure would love to have you back. But
They never email me. God.
you just weren't. They
God.
didn't want you in their cult.
God, yeah.
Well, Crystal, I think that I hope that I get more out of this FOIA request, the CPRA. I hope it's more fruitful than my last FOIA request, which I've returned some stuff, but nothing really great. I'm hoping to get some good juicy stuff out of this one. But the reason why I'm doing it is because I was inspired by what was your letter for the Cattle Act, and we've got a few minutes left. Would you mind telling me about the Cattle Act, why it's important, and what AB 411 is, and all of that?
So the Cattle Act, AB 411, like not enough groups are talking about this, but it is right now unlawful to compost mammals on your property. Rightfully so, because they spread diseases where there's worried about BSE, bovine spongiform encephalopathy, anthrax, and chickens, poultry birds, and plant material. We're not that worried about the composting that stuff because they don't have all of these diseases. But mammals do, like very high risk diseases. So this is highly regulated, and we want people to send their dead mammals to rendering facilities instead.
They're also bigger, right? They're also large. The mammals we're talking about are really big. Yeah.
But masses of chickens are also big, and I think there's
true.
a concern there too.
Right, you're right about that. Yeah, 6 million chickens, and composting that many is quite a large number. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, what a problem is the Central Valley aquifer is highly vulnerable and already highly contaminated above EPA levels with agricultural waste and dairy runoff and all of this stuff. And there's subsistence happening. It is sinking. It is like the water table, the whole thing is shrinking as we suck out the water from the aquifer. So
Mhm.
the whole Central Valley is getting lower. We had catastrophic flooding in 2023, right? And
Mhm.
all of these things are very worrisome for composting. But the cattle industry, specifically the dairy industry, wants to be able to compost bodies on their property. We had massive die-offs of cows over the years because of heat waves, like
Mhm.
it's happening now.
Yeah.
And thousands of cattle have died, and they're like the rendering trucks were backed up. And I
Can't we
actually,
just let them rot here?
yeah, I went to Baker Commodities in Kerman, which is in Fresno County, just to like have a look. It is a tiny facility, and
Mhm.
that's like where most people send their dead. There's only a couple of these, and
I
you
mean,
know,
it's a gross business. Who looks up at their father when they're a little boy and goes, "What do you want to do what do you want to do when you grow up?" I want to be a renderer.
I mean, at least that's better than working in a slaughterhouse, honestly. I'd rather just like
Sure, you don't have to kill
process
them, but ugh,
the
you,
dead than, you
yuck.
know, do that. But I watched as a truck went in there and just dumped, it looked like a bunch of ribs, like the Manning beef, what we saw, like all these
Hmm.
ribs and
Just
stuff,
the
just
joints, the
dumped it on the
bones.
ground. And
Hmm.
I'm like, what's that about? If I had some patience, I'd stick around and see what they did with those ribs that were just on the ground, but whatever. Giant, huge truck just dumped it. But that
And
it
then
was
and then somebody else comes in, picks it all up, and throws it in the boiler and turns it into marshmallows.
I don't know, but I was shocked at how small Baker Commodities is. Um,
I mean,
but the dairy industry wants to be able to compost, and this would save them about $115 a carcass,
were they
which
cooking when you were there? Was there a column of
there's
smoke coming out
steam
of the top?
going up, and
Yeah.
it didn't smell bad or anything,
Well,
which
they
I
got
was
those
surprised.
long chimneys that go up, so you can't smell it.
Mhm. But anyway, that so the Cattle Act is trying to be passed, and they're basing all of this on a study of 4 carcasses that they composted to say, oh, it's safe because we composted these 4 carcasses and it works. And sure, 42 states do allow composting, but we are the agriculture center
Hmm.
of the world pretty much, but
And we're
especially the
also
United
thirsty.
States.
We don't have water to poison. We don't have so much excess water. We could poison the water that we have. A lot of those other states, there's,
Yeah.
they got plenty of water. They're not worried about poisoning their aquifers. They don't need aquifers. They're just coming out of the sky.
Yeah, and also just clogs up, like all of this agriculture waste clogs up the aquifer, so it prevents it from
Hmm.
recharging. This leads to more subsidence. So it's hugely bad for our environment. Yeah, it's not really an animal welfare issue, so I don't think the animal groups really care about this. I don't know what the environmental groups think. I've reached out to some environmental groups. I'm like, hey, were you aware of this? I don't think they really care. I think we're the only group who really cares about this.
Well,
And
animal people should care because this is an industry that is still furthering their propaganda goals, saying that this is perfectly okay, that this doesn't hurt anybody, and they're literally going out and doing something that's very, very dangerous, poisoning our water in a time when we just don't have that much is just, yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, and here's the thing, it sounds like all natural. Oh, you're composting,
Compost, yeah,
returning
sounds so, yeah.
the animals' bodies to the earth, which is it's a much more natural sounding process than rendering, which involves chemicals and heat and all of this stuff, and trucking,
Mhm,
which
mhm.
I think maybe the environmental folks would be like, well, it involves less trucking of
Oh yeah, the
bodies across
diesel,
the
that's the
state,
problem.
right?
Yeah.
But we're talking massive
So
amounts of bodies and nobody going
composting
and checking. And
also yeah, nobody goes and checks, you're right. But composting, I don't know if you've ever been to a compost in the morning or a dump in the morning or someplace where there's a lot of animals rotting in the morning, but there's a lot of gas coming off of them. And you could see it. There's so much heat being generated by an animal that's being decomposed, um, composted. If you if you wake up early enough and you even go to, like, my grandfather used to have a compost pile in the back of his, and just in his backyard, he's an old farmer, and he did that when I was a kid. And in the morning is just steam. And you could tell it's not steam because it's heavier than steam. It's methane. That's what that is. It's methane just flying off of it. And you can go look at it while it's happening. So tell me this isn't going to put more methane in the earth if we're just going to let these animals go through the natural process of decomposition.
Well, I don't know. Weigh the greenhouse gas effects of trucking those bodies versus that coming off. I don't know the answer.
Methane's higher than carbon. Methane's far worse than
but
carbon.
it has a shorter half-life in the environment. So
true. Why is it doing it that in the morning? This is where
we need Frank Mittloner.
Yeah, we need somebody to. I just don't think it's a good environment.
He's a shill. Anyway,
I don't think it's an environmental. To say that you're going to take trucks off is an environmental plus. I think you're probably going to lose whatever benefits you had by taking the trucks off by the fact that you're letting all the methane out of these decomposing animals. Why is it doing that in the morning? Because it's cold. Because you could see it. You could see the chemical process happening in the morning because it's cold in the morning. That's all. I guess, any kind. On a cold day, if you went out and looked at it doesn't have to be the morning, I guess. And the cold day, you'll see the just a bunch of gas just escaping compost piles. Yeah.
So anyway, Our Honor is the one lone group raising awareness about this. I am particularly there's no regulators going to check on these compost piles to make sure that they're done correctly. Even if they are done correctly, let's say they are, we have had catastrophic weather events like the 2023 floods. Imagine another flood happens and you have thousands of composted bodies in the low-lying Central Valley. That's flooded and you have bodies floating everywhere, spreading disease, contaminating water. It's a disaster. So if
right,
you
it's
are
like
also
an oil spill on it's like an oil spill. It's just going to be this ecological disaster. You still haven't seen the movie HUD, have you? And you're reminding me of it again. You say so many things. You've got to watch it, Crystal. It's old. The pacing is going to be old, but it's Paul Newman. He's very handsome in it, and he's living on a farm during a foot and mouth outbreak, and it's and they depopulate. There's a horrible depopulation scene in it, very worth watching. And you're reminding me it again because they want to kill the buzzards. The villain wants to kill the buzzards, and the older farmer saying they take care of the carcasses so that we don't have to call the rendering truck. We don't have to take care of it ourselves. We want the buzzards, they're annoying. I hate the buzzards. No, the buzzards are great. When we lose a cow, like, the buzzards take it, and it's all part of the ecosystem.
And now the buzzards are spreading foot and mouth disease.
Yes. Yeah, it's all. You gotta watch it someday. I wish you'd watch it.
I will. I love old movies.
I feel like I've been telling you this for over a year now, and you haven't seen it, but that's okay. It's right up your friggin' alley. It's
watch and listen to. I will definitely.
It's in your box. So what can I do about this, though? I guess I got two questions for you. What can I do about AB 411?
Well, we submitted a letter, groups, I guess, maybe even individuals can submit letters on the portal on our website. You can click the link in the chat now, and
those are links
sign
you just
our
put in the
letter
chat.
if you are down with it. That won't go to your legislators though, right? It's going to be heard in the Appropriations Committee of the Senate. So
of the state Senate.
Of the state Senate. So I just wrote this letter to make them aware of the potential costs associated with this, because I don't think that we're really taking into account the cost of the damage to the environment and the infrastructure that could occur due to increasing subsistence. So check it out. You can copy and paste it and send it to your person, but really this is going to the Appropriations Committee. So you can write a letter that will go on to a California position letter. Like if you're a group, or I think even individuals can do it, you sign up there. It's a little complicated. This is not a situation that is like, these campaigns where it's like, sign the petition, which really doesn't do anything. That is just when you sign a petition to an animal
Makes me
rights
feel
org,
good.
it makes you feel good,
But what about
but you are being added to their donation funnel. You are not actually doing anything. You need to actually take action. Sign up for the California position letter portal. Upload your letter to that, and that way the Appropriations Committee can see it. You could also email the people on the Appropriations Committee. Usually, though, I don't know if this really works in this case, but once it passes the Appropriations Committee, which it probably will, let's be honest, then you need to email your senator and let them know that you want them to vote no on this. And
it's never
that's where
too
we have
early to
power.
email your California senator. No one does that enough. They don't get enough letters
Yeah.
and emails. I think you
Do
should always
they
be
not?
emailing.
I don't know.
No,
I
they
go back
don't.
and forth.
Last time I
Okay.
called mine, a human being answered and took a note, like it was 1997. And I tell people all the time, you got something on your mind that's happening locally, not for the U.S. Senate, but something like this, the California Senate. They're going to answer, and by law, they're going to write something down because it's your freedom of speech. They can't hinder it. We know that through Maddie Krasno, that they're not allowed to just be like, thanks, and then rip it up. They actually take a note and how many people called about each thing. And you hear them when they actually get interviewed, they're like, well, I got 50 calls about trans people. They'll say stuff like this, right? Because they do pay attention. They do care about their constituents because they want to keep their jobs. So I think it's important if you're worried about the cattle, I'm going to call mine. My guy's Choi. I'm going to call him. Cool. I don't call that guy enough. It's been a few weeks.
The thing is, if it doesn't pass appropriations, then and it never gets a floor vote, I don't know. Well,
he knows someone in his district cares about. He knows someone in his district is paying attention and holding him to account and watching this stuff. And that's enough. Like, I want them to be put on notice, and we should always be putting the people in power on notice. But Chris, a lot of people don't live in California, and I think that we should ask them. What?
I don't think people, if you're not in California, maybe contact people your friends who do live in California.
Oh, I've got a better idea.
Ask them too. What?
You should do that for sure. Contact your friends who live in California. Tell them about the Cattle Act and why it's important. But I think you should also go to outhonor.org/donate, where we have a matching grant. We are doing most of the work on this and trying to get people to care about it and getting it out there, putting out newsletters and writing these letters. And Crystal and I are working on this stuff. And if you care about that and you care about what's happening, then please consider putting a penny in the pot over at outhonor.org/donate, where we have, I don't know where we are on our goal. We're trying to make it to $5,000 this month of donations, and each one of your dollars will be matched. So even if you only have a couple bucks to spare, those will be matched. $2 will be $4, $5 will be $10. Get out there and help us out. Help us help the animals. What do you think about my pitch?
Yeah, sounds great.
Good.
There's one other FOIA I did. I just requested all livestock indemnity payments from January 1st, 2017 through the present. And I've gotten some back and forth on that from the FOIA people, which I have to respond to. But that'll be good because we'll find out, how many animals died of heat stress and things like that.
I'm looking forward to that. Although when I was looking at records about heat stress that you sent me, it was hard to know how many exact about fire. No, it was fire, not heat stress. How many are killed during fire? It's very difficult because the producers are awarded through ELAP this lump sum of money, and we don't know how many animals that represents.
The program is different than ELAP.
Oh, which one? Sorry, there was
my new FOIA request was for the livestock indemnity program, and that's the one that covers fires, hurricanes, floods, freezing.
That's one that I was looking at. Yeah. The indemnity program, right? Not ELAB. You're right. But the problem is, I don't know about hurricanes, but when I was trying to find out about fire, it was just difficult to find out how many individual cows that meant, because it's just like, oh, they got this much money. And then it's like they're supposed to be getting 75% of the fair market value of each animal. But then you have to go back and look up how much each individual animal will be worth and try to just find a number.
Mhm.
So it's interesting, and I can't
Hard,
wait to
and like
find.
dairy cows are worth a different than calves and bulls and all of that.
Yes,
It's really hard to
exactly.
figure that out.
So we got to find out what the average is, and then figure out what the get an estimation of how many animals that lump sum of money from our taxpayer dollars actually represents in indemnity payments, which I can't wait to look at. We should get a spreadsheet for this. I love spreadsheets. That'd be fun.
Mhm.
Well, everybody, that's FOIA Friday. I don't have a plan for my next FOIA, but I put out 2 today. I wanted it to be 3, but then I was trying to be very laser focused, so I just try to get. But maybe I should do another one. What do you think my other one should be? Do for the USDA for the same thing about the water, but it's to be CPRA. I don't think the
I don't
USDA
know
is
if
really.
the USC is going to care. I think
No, I don't think
that's
so either.
California local stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
a little confused on your FOIA. So we'll see. I guess
You're confused?
I'm
Why?
confused, and I don't know exactly what you're asking for. I guess I have to like look at the text. I was a little bit lost, so I'm not.
Really?
Yeah, you
Oh.
are request. Like, I guess we can go through it again.
Well,
Notice
I
the
posted in the.
violation, administrative civility actions, cleanup and abatement orders, penalties.
Yeah, I want to know if they've been
Okay.
dinged. I want to know
Okay.
if they've been dinged and how. It's similar to what I was trying to do with OSHA, right? I wanted to find out what OSHA violations they have to see if they've misused
Yeah.
their workers. And it's the same thing. Like if a governing body or an inspection body has been, because I've been thinking this a lot about my background in hotels and foods, food and beverage. When you get an inspector, all that stuff is public records, and they'll take they take notes about everything, about like, oh, I found a hard piece of melted cheese inside your industrial microwave, and that's a violation. They're taking all these notes. And so if somebody is probably violating a lot of has a lot of OSHA violations, you should be able to get those OSHA violations pretty easily and associate it with see how bad they are. Because if it's just
Yeah.
something like somebody left a pallet because there's OSHA violations, like a pallet balanced against the wall is an OSHA violation, or an oven not being tethered to the wall is an OSHA violation. But there's also OSHA violations like people being forced to work too many hours and all sorts of other stuff like that. And so that stuff a lot of times will come out in inspection, and
Yeah.
inspectors love to catch people doing shit.
I guess I would probably. I don't think you're going to get much from Land of Lakes Tulare Complex. I'm going to say like no such thing exists, or they're going to be like, we don't know what facility you're talking about. But if you go down the list of all of the names of the dairies that are received those ELAP payments, then we could start to tell a story. And
That's my plan. I'm going to try to
so
like
I
go
think
in.
that's what you should do.
You think ELAP?
I think do your FOIA request that you just did looking for violations, but request the names that we got back that they got ELAP payments for. So now we can correlate, like they had these violations and they got this much in ELAP payments, and here's the footage of the facility. Like we could start to tell a whole story.
I like that idea too, because then with ELAP, they're getting money for animals that have been
And what about Central Valley Eggs violations of whatever this is too, and Poso Creek Family Dairy, like those ones that we investigated.
Yeah, I want to go deeper into each one. I was thinking Crystal Creamery because the name, but I'll go into
the ones where we're actually like investigating.
You're right. Let's do that. That's perfect, because I can find out the addresses and even their dairy numbers and stuff like that, and go right after them. I love that. And they should be, all of them get inspected, and inspectors love catching them with their pants down. They get off on it. They love like, oh, I found this, and they love getting stuff like that. So I want to see what they're up to.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a lot less that's less frequent in Tulare and Kern. So
I don't know. Those inspectors got to justify their jobs like everybody else. And if they're not finding anything out there when they go out in the field, then why are you sending them? And I think that they're going to, just like health inspectors in Las Vegas, they are very strict. And you wouldn't think so because of how much is reliant on this industry. The whole industry of food and beverage and hospitality, you think that the inspectors would be kind of in cahoots, and they sort of are. They'll wheel and deal for you. Like there's lots of little tricks. Like you could have a different health if you have the money, like a casino, and you've got a bar. You can have the bar have 2 health inspections, which is crazy because it's just one bar. But they'll do it for you so that even if you have an offense that will shut you down in all other ways, they normally would shut you down, they'll let you stay open because you have another one. You'll just have to shut down half the bar, which is nothing.
Interesting.
Yeah, they do that type of stuff all the time, but they will shut you down, and they do take things seriously. So I think the similar thing would happen in Tulare, where you have an industry that is probably completely in cahoots with who's inspecting them, but they still got to justify their jobs. So I'm hopeful. But I like your idea about going after the same people that we had for eLab. I love it. I'll do that next week. And we'll see everybody on FOIA Friday at 4 next Friday. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We didn't get anybody on X talk, but there's a new feature on X. I'm looking forward to having more conversations with all of you over there. And thank you, everyone on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you guys very much. That's FOIA Friday. Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you.
Back to the FOIA Fridays. Outro.
Freedom of information. Friday.